You ever notice how her eyes linger just a second too long? But then she looks away, like nothing ever happened. You tell yourself, maybe she was just being polite. But something inside you felt it. That moment, that charge. Like the air changed between you. Was that real? Or was it just wishful thinking? Here's the truth. There are moments you unknowingly spark her curiosity. Moments that make her imagine what it would be like with you. And most men? They walk right past those moments. But if you know these 5 triggers, she won't forget you. Even if you never say a word. Ever felt like a woman noticed you differently, but you couldn't explain why? Drop a if you've experienced that spark. Stay to the end. Number 5 rewires everything. You're at a bar. Music's just loud enough to drown out thoughts, but quiet enough for you to hear your own hesitation. The crowd shifts, and then she bumps into you. Quick apology. A smile, not overdone, not flashy. Just long enough to register. Then she looks away, but something lingers. You stand there for a second too long, asking yourself the question you'll keep repeating the rest of the night. Was that something? Or was I just imagining it? That's the moment most men never trust. The flicker, the spark, not fire, not yet, but something underneath the surface. Something unspoken. She didn't ask for your number. She didn't bite her lip or toss her hair. It was just a glance, a moment. A current passing between 2 people, one of whom was actually paying attention. See, women don't always initiate with boldness. Sometimes it's the tiniest signal. A delay in her blink, a subtle angle of her body, a change in tone when she says your name. They're not accidents. They're emotional tests, invisible to most men because they're too focused on what they want to see instead of what's actually there. And here's what's wild. That little pause in her smile. It might have meant nothing to her in the moment, but it also might have been everything. An instinctive flicker of interest. The kind that happens before she even realizes it's happening. Because romantic curiosity doesn't start with a pickup line. It doesn't start with confidence or swagger or even looks. It starts with possibility. The idea of you. The unknown. The potential energy between 2 people who haven't yet collided. And that potential, it creates tension. And tension creates memory. Don't you know that moment when you left a conversation and couldn't stop replaying it in your head? That's the same loop she'll run when you hit the right emotional frequency. When you give her something real, something that feels like a spark but doesn't beg to be chased. Most men smother the spark. They try to force it into flame. They talk too much, laugh too hard, touch too quickly. But you're not most men. You're the kind of guy who notices the silence between the sentences. The pause in her breath. The flicker behind her eyes. That awareness. That ability to feel what she's not saying. It's your edge. So the next time you notice her laugh and touch your arm, don't rush to respond. Don't pull away. Let the moment breathe. Let the silence stretch. Just a second longer. Because in that second, something grows. Curiosity, chemistry, connection. And it all starts with trusting what you already felt. You're at a party. The lighting is warm, laughter bounces off the walls, and everyone's halfway between tipsy and relaxed. You're talking with friends, telling a story, getting laughs, and across the room, she sees you, not because you called attention to yourself, but because you didn't need to. You feel her eyes before you see them. It's subtle, a glance quickly redirected. And when your eyes finally meet, you nod, calm, composed, and go right back to your conversation. That moment? That's when it begins. Because in that single decision, to acknowledge without chasing, to see without needing, you became something most men never are. Unpredictable. You didn't smile too long. You didn't excuse yourself to talk to her. You didn't perform. You existed fully inside your world. And from across the room, she wondered about you. C. Romantic curiosity doesn't grow in the soil of predictability. It grows in the tension between I see you and you can't quite figure me out. Most men throw themselves forward the second they sense attraction. They drop compliments like quarters in a vending machine, hoping the snack they want drops into their hands. But when she senses that you don't need her attention to feel whole, it destabilizes her, not in a manipulative way, in a psychological way, because women, especially the ones used to attention, can sense hunger from across the room. And when they don't feel that from you, their brain lights up in a different way. It's dopamine. It's reward circuitry. The same chemicals that fire when she's one text away from closure, 1 minute away from seeing if she's still got it. When you remain calm, when you don't chase, when you respond with subtle presence rather than immediate pursuit, you activate her loop, not yours. She starts watching. She looks to see if you're noticing her, if your eyes track her movements, if your energy shifts when she walks by, and when it doesn't. That absence becomes a presence of its own. It creates space in her mind, space filled with questions. Why didn't he look again? Did he notice me? What's his deal? The female brain is built to chase patterns. And when she can't lock you into one, she keeps watching. You become the itch she can't scratch. And this isn't about being cold. It's about being warm, but rooted. It's about making her feel seen without making her feel worshipped. You're not being distant. You're being deliberate. Let her experience you without trying to control how she experiences you. That's the secret. Because when you don't rush to validate her, she starts wondering if she's the one trying to earn your attention. That flips everything. Most guys are chasing confirmation. You're creating tension. You're creating space for her to enter, not walls for her to climb. So here's your move. Next time you catch her watching, don't turn it into a performance. Don't break the rhythm of your own presence. Just look, nod, and return to your world. Because when you let her wonder if she even has your full attention, you become the question she can't answer. And that's exactly what keeps you on her mind. It's late afternoon and you're standing in line at a coffee shop. Sunlight filters in through the windows, lighting the space in gold. She's ahead of you, laughing with the barista, joking about something on the chalkboard menu. There's a liveliness in her energy, the kind that radiates without trying. You notice it, sure, but more importantly, you match it. You don't copy her posture. You don't mimic her words. You just step into her rhythm, lightly, intuitively. When she turns around, you ask her a question with the same kind of playful tone she just used with the barista. Something light, slightly teasing, just enough to echo her vibe without stealing it. She freezes for a second, not visibly, but internally. You can feel it, because you didn't break her flow. You joined it, and you didn't do it like every other guy, the ones who try too hard to be what they think she wants. You did it like someone who felt her first, then responded in kind. That's how it begins. There's a science to it. Mirror neurons. The human brain has these built-in empathy circuits that fire when we see someone express an emotion we understand. We laugh when they laugh. We tense up when they cry. We feel with them. And in moments of potential attraction, that emotional resonance becomes everything. You don't need to mirror her exact words or posture. That's surface level. Anyone can fake that. What matters is matching her emotional current. If she's open and animated, you meet her with playfulness. If she's quiet and introspective, you lower your voice and slow your rhythm. Not to manipulate, to attune. Because the second she feels like you're in sync with her emotionally, something shifts. Her guard drops. Her curiosity rises. You ever notice how two people start sitting in the same position without realizing it? Or how you and someone close to you can finish each other's sentences without effort? That's resonance. That's emotional mirroring. And women test for it constantly, without even knowing it. She leans in when you do. She shifts her posture to face you. She echoes your laughter, your phrasing, your tone. These are not coincidences. These are emotional confirmations, but most men miss it. They're either too distracted or too forceful, trying to lead the vibe instead of listening for it. You're sharper than that. You notice her energy before you act. You adjust the emotional frequency before you speak. And when you do, she doesn't feel like she's being courted. She feels like she's being understood. That's the difference. Because when a woman feels like you see her energy and respond with your own, without trying to fix, impress, or control, she starts to wonder, who is this guy? Why does this feel so easy? And that wondering? That's where curiosity turns into craving. So next time you're across from her, at a cafe, on a date, in line at the grocery store, take a moment before you speak. Read her rhythm. Catch the echo, and then gently reflect it back. That's how you build connection. Not with effort, but with attunement. It's 2 days later. She's scrolling her phone, half listening to a podcast, texting a friend about brunch plans. But somewhere in the back of her mind, you show up again. She's not sure why. It's not like you did anything outrageous. You didn't flood her DMs. You didn't shower her with compliments. You didn't confess anything dramatic. But you left something unfinished. And now, you're stuck in her mental loop. This is what psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. The mind remembers incomplete experiences better than completed ones. Unfinished conversations, moments with unresolved tension, emotional questions that never got answers. And whether you realized it or not, you gave her exactly that. It started when you asked her a question that went deeper than usual. Maybe it was, do you think most people are actually happy? Or maybe it was just the way you paused when she was halfway through a sentence and said, wait, say that again. That was real. She opened up, just a little. Not fully, but enough. Enough to feel like something shifted. And then, you didn't close the loop. You didn't tie it up neatly. You didn't hand her the answers. You let the question breathe. You smiled and said, I'll tell you what I think next time. And just like that, you became unfinished business. You didn't give her dopamine through instant validation. You gave her tension. The kind her emotional brain can't stop. Replaying. This is what most men never understand. They try to impress. They try to entertain. They try to complete the story too fast. But women don't crave completion. They crave curiosity. They crave the space to wonder. When you withhold just enough, not your presence, not your kindness, but your full emotional reveal, you become the book she can't stop reading. And now, every time her phone buzzes, she half hopes it's you. Not because you overwhelmed her, but because you left something unresolved. You said something that felt true. You looked at her in a way that suggested you saw something real. And then, you let it linger. It's a breadcrumb effect. Small moments deliberately placed. A question here. A pause there. A half smile that suggests you know more than you're saying. It's not about games. It's about pacing. You're not withholding for power. You're revealing with precision. Because when she has to think about you, not because of what you said, but because of what you almost said, now you're in her system. Now, you're a loop. So next time you find yourself deep in conversation, don't rush to fill every silence. Don't dump your whole story out in one sitting. Let something remain unsaid. Smile when it gets too real. Change the subject just when it's about to peak. Let her chase the next beat, because when you leave her wondering what you really think, what you really feel, who you really are. That wondering becomes obsession. Not because you tried to be mysterious, but because you understood the one truth that changes everything. What she replays in her mind is rarely what was loud and obvious. It's what was quiet, what was unfinished, what echoed. She's not just looking at your face. She's watching your presence. She's scanning your energy like a radar searching for signal. And what she's trying to figure out isn't whether you're handsome, funny, or even confident. She's trying to figure out one thing. Do you change the story I'm living in? Because here's the truth most men miss. She's not waiting for a hero to sweep her off her feet. She's waiting for a disruption, a shift in the tempo of her emotional world, a break in the pattern that's kept her mildly entertained, but spiritually asleep. You don't need to be a knight in shining armor. That's a fantasy she outgrew in middle school. What she craves now is a plot twist, and not the kind that screams for attention. The kind that walks in with calm conviction and alters the atmosphere. You ever notice how some people enter a room and immediately it feels different? They're not the loudest. They don't try the hardest. But something about them changes the current. That's what you are when you stop trying to prove anything. You have goals, direction, a way of seeing the world that isn't borrowed from Instagram or regurgitated from some podcast. You have opinions, not to argue, but to stand for something. And when you carry yourself like that, like a man with internal narrative, she senses it instantly. She watches how you talk to others, how you don't need to dominate the conversation, how you're funny but not performative, how you listen, really listen, not just to respond, but to understand. And suddenly, without her realizing it, her story shifts. Because now she's not thinking, is he into me? She's thinking, who is he really? And why do I want to know? You're no longer an extra in her movie. You've become a character that alters the plot. But here's where most guys mess it up. They try to insert themselves too fast. They want to be the solution before they've understood the problem. They want to be the climax before they've earned a scene. Not you. You ask better questions. You don't offer advice unless it's invited. You don't make the moment about your accomplishments. You reflect back something in her that makes her pause and ask herself, why do I feel different when I'm around him? That's power. You become the man who doesn't change for her, but who changes the way she sees herself just by showing up aligned. And when that happens, she want to follow that energy because it feels rare, not flashy, not perfect, but rare. So next time you're with her, forget trying to win anything. Ask yourself one question. What story is she living in? And how do I become the scene she replays? Not because I impressed her, but because I made her feel like she woke up from a script she didn't even know she was stuck in. That's what makes you unforgettable. That's how you become the plot twist. There's a moment, sometimes days later, sometimes weeks, where she's alone with her thoughts. No distractions, just her and the quiet. And suddenly, there you are again. Not because you chased her, not because you impressed her, but because you lingered. Not in her phone, not in her social feed, in her imagination. And that's where desire lives. See, mystery isn't about being aloof. It's not about hiding. It's about revealing yourself in layers, deliberately, not defensively. Most guys flood her with attention. They overshare, they overperform. They want to be understood so badly that they give everything away at once. But you let her discover you, one layer at a time, one sentence at a time. One look, one silence, one moment of vulnerability, placed carefully between confidence and control. That's what makes you unforgettable. You don't want to be her type. You want to be the exception that breaks her pattern. She's had types. She's had labels. She's had checklists. But you're none of that. You're not a puzzle she solves and shelves. You're not a character she's seen before. You're Not the guy who makes her feel safe because he's predictable. You're the guy who makes her feel alive because he's not. And yet, you're grounded. You're not chaos. You're not confusion. You're calm, but not boring. Intentional, but not robotic. Mysterious, but not manipulative. You make her feel something she hasn't felt in a long time. Possibility. The possibility that she's wrong about what love is supposed to look like. The possibility that you're more than she expected. The possibility that she doesn't need to be in control this time, because your presence already makes her feel held. When a woman can't fully define you, when she can't predict your next move, but she trusts it'll be grounded in strength and integrity, that's when her curiosity becomes craving, because now she's not just interested. She's emotionally invested. She doesn't want to lose the feeling she gets when she's around you. The mix of peace and fire. The calm certainty and low-key chaos. The sense that something real is happening, but it's not being rushed, forced, or scripted down. And the best part, you don't have to try, because once you understand this dynamic, once you've seen how these sparks get lit, you stop performing. You stop needing to prove. You start being the man who naturally generates that energy. So next time you feel the urge to impress, pause. Don't fill the silence. Don't push for the punchline. Just exist, fully in your own space. Let her step into it. Curious, unsure, drawn. Because when you've mastered mystery, when you embody the unknown, when you live from a place of calm, slow-burning gravity, she won't just like you. She'll replay you over and over. Moments that linger, glances that breathe, presence without pursuit, steady, centered, complete. Energy that reflects hers, not mimics it, seeing her in ways she's never been seen, leaving her wanting just one more moment, one more word, comment. If you're ready to become the man she can't quite figure out, but can't stop thinking about. And remember, most men chase the obvious. But you've learned how to leave a mark. In silence,